Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to be sharing with you some of our understanding around agents and how they can help your organizations. Hopefully you're here for many reasons, potentially out of pure curiosity, maybe even to a sanity check you're thinking you're already doing, and maybe out of that necessity to understand more. I'm Erica Jeffries and I'm the head of digital at the Inform team, and I'm going to introduce you to Archie.
Hello everyone, great to meet you all virtually at least. So I'm Archie Clark and I'm a change manager here at the Inform team as well. But yeah, really looking forward to chatting to you today all about Copilot agents.
Cool, let's get started. I think Archie and I aren't really slides people, but we recognize that we could easily go off topic talking about agents, as every time we get together we talk about stuff and go at a tangent. So we've put some slides together, but we're going to try not really just to talk to the slides, but hopefully make it much more conversational than that. So Archie, do you want to maybe just kind of help frame what an agent is? Because I guess that I think we're all getting up to speed with this, so it might be a good way to just frame that.
Absolutely. So yeah, if you're already using Microsoft 365 Copilot, a great way to think about agents are that they specialize and focus on a specific task or a particular business area. So the way I like to think about them is they're almost like an application that's powered by Microsoft Copilot. And whilst the regular Copilot that we all know and love is your general AI assistant, agents are more like dedicated team members trained on particular subjects and workflows to fulfill that particular task. So agents can be customized with specific knowledge sources and given particular instructions. They can work interactively as well when you need them to, or even autonomously, to be able to handle routine tasks that you've got in your organization. And you'll find them in Microsoft Teams. You can look for the Copilot section on the left sidebar as well, where you can access both Microsoft agents that already exist, and you can create your own agents as well. So there's a lot of different agents to explore, which we'll talk a little bit about in this session.
So this is actually very new to everybody. The technology hasn't been there for very long. So the fact you guys are here actually means you're pretty much ahead of the curve. We're probably only slightly ahead of you. We've had 2 or 3 months of looking at this sort of stuff. So, and then just sort of the initial technology was only brought out like a year ago, but it was quite basic, more public preview, less easy just to crack on with. And then obviously March this year is when all of this was unleashed. So Wave 2 brought these kind of features where you could build agents that integrated well within sort of different parts, using different APIs, so different systems. They had pre-built agents that were templated and they could use real-time knowledge sources. So it suddenly became really useful stuff that everyone could then adopt. So this is really why this is now picking up speed and the necessity to kind of get on and look at what these might look like. And what this has meant is obviously everyone, Microsoft has released training and upskilling around Copilot Studio. So everyone's jumping on it and then the journey can really begin. So it really is, this is that starting point. So if you're here today, you're already ahead of the curve. And then probably just a little bit about what's different between Copilot and Copilot agents. We know that Copilot, for many people that are already using Copilot, you know what it does. It can help you within the apps, and it can help you within, when you're at meetings and summarize stuff and draft content. This isn't sort of anything new to many of us these days, with ChatGPT having been around for quite some time. And then with agents, you can automate and multi-step workflows, decision-making processes across different tools and systems. So it isn't necessarily smarter straight off the bat because you have to give it maybe more instructions, but once you've given it those instructions, it can be leveraged by people much more effectively. So Copilot was that task level assistance within the apps, which we spoke about, and now you've got that end-to-end process processes that are fully automated across multiple apps, data, and APIs. Obviously, we are all now prompt experts. I don't know about you, my prompt engineering skills started with always getting it wrong to still mostly getting it wrong, but knowing that I can build on it. So we all have our different things, but it was very much that all about the prompt. With agents, they have memory and they have goals and something called topics, which essentially helps you, create a logical flow that can fulfill a specific business need. And we'll have another look at these later, but they'll take people through complex topics to help get the right answer.
And I think it's worth adding there quickly, Erica, as well, just around the prompt engineering. Again, that can't be overstated enough. Like, prompt engineering is still super important with agents, just to be able to make sure that you are getting as much possible value out of this particular tool. You do need to know how to prompt correctly. So there's obviously guidance that we can share as well around the GCSE methodology, but there's even more prompting that you need to do with an agent just to make sure that you are getting the results that you expect as well.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a really good point, and it definitely isn't understated. I know I sounded like I probably understated that a little bit because we've been doing it for so long, but actually I take less time to get the answers I need now that I'm slightly better at it. But so the other thing I think people have found frustrating a little bit with Copilot, especially if they've been using ChatGPT before Copilot came along within their organization, is that you could set up ChatGPT to remember your tone of voice and to remember the last thing you were talking about and all that. And in Copilot, that's gone once the session's finished. But with agents, that memory can be retained, and the context can build over time. Obviously, Copilot is primarily just reactive and reacts to your prompts, whereas actually the agents can do so much more. Oh my God, when I first went on the Copilot Studio course, it was like suddenly realizing the power of all the things it can do, initiating actions. It can automate pretty much anything based off just the right words, and actually do escalations of Power BI reports and all sorts of stuff. So there is so much it can do. Obviously, Copilot was just summarize this document or draft this email, and now you've got things like monitor incoming leads, qualify them, and assign them to the right sales rep. I mean, that is game changing in terms of how much time that saves people. So that's just a little flavour. Does anybody have any questions? There was a couple of questions in the chat, I think, Archie.
Yeah, we've got one question from Frankie just around, are prompts more like providing the agent with context? I don't know if you want to take that one, Erica.
So within agents, you can have things like starter prompts. So you could even have almost golden gift the user with the 6 most likely prompts that it can answer. So that's another way, but there's still the power of needing to be able to prompt well for generative things that it can answer. So if you had all your policies in there, in an agent, policy agent's a very common thing that people are talking about, a good one for people to start with. You would essentially, to be able to get the right information out, you'd still need to ask it the right context and information.
Absolutely. And I think one thing to add, which I know we'll touch on later in our chat, is just around constantly evolving your prompts. So it's not I've created a prompt which has helped to create an agent and that's done. You constantly need to edit that prompt, constantly update it as your needs change or your requirements change. So don't think of it as a one-time line in the sand and you move on. You constantly need to update it just to make sure that it is fulfilling the purpose that you need it to as well.
Archie, I know you've played a little. I know I've played a lot with Copilot Studio. Have you played around with it much, and any aha moments that you wanted to share?
Yeah, so I've had a fair bit of a play with it. We actually had a session last week, an internal session, which I will share the link to in the chat, unless somebody else has got that ready to go. No, I do have it. And we had a great session where we took everyone through actually how to build an agent, how to ideate a use case behind an agent as well. But we can talk about that more a little bit later on. But on a personal level, I think one of the things that really struck me in terms of an aha moment is just you can just get stuck in with agents. So it does require a bit of knowledge about how to set them up correctly and how to develop them. But my biggest recommendation, both with Copilot agents and with Copilot itself, when I speak to clients, is just start using it and just start experimenting and just trying it out. Because I think it's when you do that, that's when you start to learn, okay, what are the types of things I need to be inputting into it? What are the types of things that I need to be learning to be able to develop my prompts further and to make sure I'm getting the most out of the tool? And it sounds scary, Copilot agents, it sounds complicated, but I promise you, once you start using it, it's definitely not as complicated as it sounds. And it's a great tool to use.
I mean, we were talking yesterday about I think the more senior people in an organization need to unlock their understanding, I think, of this in order to be able to unlock the rest of your organization. Because if you can understand it and how it can be applied, you can then steer the organization better towards where the real sweet spot is and what you can do to leverage them. But I think the challenge with many of us, me included, is my generation didn't grow up with tech. We haven't learned. So there is still, my husband constantly says that tech can smell his fear like dogs, right? It's like they can smell my fear. You tell me to do something, I do it, it doesn't work, you do it, and it always works. And there is our generation. There are many of us that still feel like we can't experiment and just try stuff because we might break it. This is one of those moments where you might need to be just brave and just have a go and just have a look and don't be scared. You can't break it. So it's definitely a moment. Feels a bit technical. This feels a bit technical, and it is a bit technical, but you can still just have a go.
And of course, if you do have any questions about, if you are trying it out and you do have any questions, then come to the Inform team and we can help guide you on that journey as well. Absolutely.
So I wanted to give you an example of an agent to bring it to life a little bit. And this was something we used to support an event, but also to support one of our objectives we've got this year about innovation. We called it 007 because it was a bit of tongue in cheek when I created this, and I kept calling it 007. And it seems like, what's 007? Well, it's the agent of agents, right? Which is, how do we help our people understand what an agent is and how to come up with ideas and use cases for agents? So 007 essentially does this. It helps generate, evaluate, submit ideas specifically related to agents. It helps them find out more about agents so they can get their head around it. It helps them think about the barriers and risks and some of the complexity. So you could have a great idea for an agent, but actually you don't have the knowledge sources available. They're sensitive information, so that might be a barrier. And the knowledge itself is simple. It's a crafted story of what agents are and how they can help. So that's a PDF that we created that we thought, yeah, this is the narrative we want people to have. It's got hundreds of use cases in it. So if they go, give me some ideas for use cases for HR recruitment, it'll pick the ones out and go, here you go. It has our informed personas. So you could say, based on informed personas, based on this persona, give me some use cases. It also help talk them through what value is and what complexity is. And then they can submit their idea. And the key actions it does, it submits an idea to the digital team backlog. I mean, this is really simple stuff, but actually it just shows you the power of that tiny bit of knowledge, very simple actions, not much more going on, but it helps. So this is something that we used at an event last week and worked really well. So just to kind of bring that to life. Any questions?
And just while we're waiting for questions, I think another thing to add is you can see this is only one example of what you can use an agent for, and there are so many out there. One of the most popular that Microsoft talk about a lot is an HR bot or an HR agent, where you can find out how many days of annual leave you've got left, or find out HR policies, for example. So I know it's a cheesy phrase, but to coin a cheesy phrase, the possibilities are endless. And you can see just by what Eric has shown you how easy it is to get started with this and start to build something that's really useful.
I think there was a question from Lucy. Chat. Let me just see if I can. So message. A question from Frankie, would it be similar to storyboard? I think a great way to look at designs for agents is to start with a storyboard. How does it feel? How does it look? What are the outcomes? And it is almost like just map it and dump it all on a big piece of paper, because the design is getting complex. So, Tom?
Hello. Yeah, just on this 007 agent, I mean, it's interesting. I think when people start looking at agents initially, they one of the simplest ways you can set one up is just to have a, give it a knowledge source, give it a SharePoint site, and have it reply to prompts using that knowledge. But a case like this with 007, you start to build on that and you plug in more stuff in. So, Get My Brief, it could use the SharePoint site as a knowledge source, and it can give you links to things, and it can give you information. I want to submit an idea. You then have a card where it gives you fields to fill in, which then, as you say, submits that to DevOps. So refine my idea. You can have a prompt, plonk some text in, and you can configure the agent with a prompt that then runs after that and takes that as the input and helps you kind of think about, well, what's the use cases? Who would it benefit? How complex is this idea? And then it can output things. So you can start small and then just really build and extend these agents. Yeah. And it's really exciting, actually.
In fact, when we built this did start complex. We had to refine it, so we learnt our own lesson with this one. Anyway, I'll move us on. Chris.
Hiya. Super interesting. What I was really wanting to understand is, in terms of building that first agent as a leader, where to start and then what to connect it to. So Archie, you've talked about data sources and things like that. I can only imagine there's a fear around connecting it to the wrong thing, building the wrong thing. And I know there is no necessarily right starting point, but to help leaders understand where they might at least start off, have a think about X and connect it to Y, what would your recommendations be there?
Do you want me to take that one, Archie?
Yeah, very happy to. That's a good question, Chris.
It's a good question. And we will cover a little bit of how to get started in a minute. But I think that the very first agents, that you do need some technical skills. I mean, I think there's a lot of chatter out there about this being low code, no code. I wouldn't recommend anybody connecting to multiple complex knowledge sources through APIs, et cetera, without proper technical capability. Really, within your organization, you'll want to have some governance over that for certain. I'd actually just urge on everybody starting with more of those conversational agents, or very basic autonomous agents that do things like take something. We were working on one with a client the other day, which they've got 7,000 emails that come in around a particular thing. This is simply going to manage their inbox a bit better. I mean, it's a massive use case for them because it takes away a lot of work. So I don't think you have to start with the complex ones. There are some really high value use cases out there that are immediate and quick to do with knowledge sources available already. So I'd start small and then build out the capability for some of that more complex stuff.
I think for me, so I know we need to move on in terms of time, but I think for me, it's just starting with that problem, starting with those hairy problems, Chris, that, they're just annoying tasks that somebody has to do. And rather than somebody having to do them, if you could automate them, if you could streamline them, if you could improve how quickly or even improve the quality just by getting it done more quickly, etc., then those are the real quick wins. So it's identifying what are those tasks. And as Erica said, start small with your first one. Don't go too ambitious and just go from there.
Brilliant. Thanks, both.
So we've been talking about how you unlock value, and actually we were on a Microsoft thing the other day, and the amount of times they said unlock value was, I think we should have had a bit of word bingo going on, but so it does seem to be the thing that everyone's talking about. But I think what we're trying to look at is how do you build up value across your organization? And as a recommendation for what we've learned, is that as leaders, you need to unlock your ability to help unlock the rest of your organization, which means you need to upskill your leaders, senior management first, in order to be able to talk effectively and bring them with you. And then they can help their teams think about use cases there. So this for me, I think, is the bit that is really important up front. Then, of course, we're all individuals. We all need to figure out how agents, Copilot, etc., can help us all improve. So we're all people that have a good use case in mind. So we've got to tap into those people and understand how to get those out of their heads and into a place where we can start looking at those. Then the teams, you know, you could hold events for large teams where there's big HR function. You could have an agentathon or things like that to help them think about specific use cases that will move them forward. And then you're bringing the whole organization with you. And I think this is very much the kind of upskilling / knowledge pathway for agents. And I think it was pretty much similar for Copilot Studio, Copilot itself, but very much agents need a strategy. So it needs to start at the top. Archie, I think it's probably clear to most why we need agents, but do you want to sort of just walk through some of these topics?
Absolutely. So looking at the first one, so everyone will get more things done. So again, just in terms of real use cases, there are a lot of tasks in our day-to-day lives, as we know at work, that take a lot of time and a lot of manual effort. But by employing agents and by using them to complete these tasks, everyone will actually have more time back in their day, which will really help people to have more time for that strategic thinking, for that those more creative tasks as well. And secondly, I think the other one is in terms of unlocking value through customization as well. So again, out the box, Copilot agents are immensely valuable and really, really useful tools. But actually through that customization, you can make sure that it's tailored to your organization's needs and specific requirements. So you can even reference sources like a comms guide or a tone of voice guide, for example, to make sure that its answers are following what's established in your organization. Enhances collaboration and knowledge sharing, of course. You can have agents that are shared amongst teams. It doesn't have to be a solo pursuit. So like I mentioned earlier, the Microsoft example of having an HR policy agent, that could be used by all of HR and shared by HR across the organization. And that could be monitored by all HR colleagues as an example. And yeah, in terms of driving innovation and experimentation, there is that technical know-how, which you do need to have that baseline knowledge about. But again, using this more and more and starting to experiment it's going to really improve your own organization's innovation and encourage that experimentation further. And we've got facilitate change and transformation. So again, we understand that there's a lot of nervousness around AI still, but this is a real opportunity to show people the power of using AI and specifically using Copilot, because it's something that's going to take those busy tasks away from their day-to-day and actually going to really support them with giving more time back to them. And lastly, because we can't afford not to. So again, Copilot is one of those tools where you've already got the licenses. I'm sure as you're on this call, you've already invested in it. So it's an amazing opportunity just to really capitalize on your investment and to use what's at your fingertips to be able to get more done within your organizations. Are there any questions?
Sorry. I was realizing we're probably running out of time, so I thought
no problem. Let's move on and we'll answer questions at the end.
Actually, I mean, this is the last slide anyway, but what some of the things when we're talking to people, and actually I have to say many of my conversations I've had with people have been, it sounds like I go to the pub a lot, but no, they've been in social situations. So I'm sitting down with the parents from school at a drinks night out and somebody says, oh, I've been doing the thing, we're thinking about the thing. And I worry about keeping my mouth shut and saying, no, I don't want to look like I know it all. And but it's something that I think a lot of people are talking about, not just in work, but outside of work. And it seems to come up a lot. So I think getting started and understanding how to get started and avoid, I think, some of the common challenges that everybody's facing, I think is a good thing. I've put common challenges at the top here, but I don't think they are common challenges yet, because there's not enough common here. Like, you've got to do, there's got to be a lot of it around for it to be a usual thing, right? And I don't think we're there yet. I think this is still a new thing. So one of the things that I have heard a lot from big and small companies actually is people are stuck in proof of concept land. They can't get something to live. And some of the things that might help with that, Archie, do you want to give a quick overview?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of when you first get started, upskilling, again, we've spoken about it a lot on this call, but start to upskill actually, how do agents work? How can you get the most out of them? What are the types of prompts that will be most valuable to input? What are the knowledge sources that you need to learn about? So upskilling, again, is just super key to that getting started part. Proof of concepts feeds again into what we've already spoken about experimentation. Start to build mini versions of these apps, just so that you can
just going to say on that point. Sorry,
yeah.
Actually, didn't mean to.
No, please do.
I'm just going to say, I know I said avoid proof of concept land. Proof of concepts are there for you to help experiment, but they need a point where you need to go back and really design the thing and not just wing it. Otherwise, you'll end up with a really complex thing that does multiple things you don't really want it to do, and it doesn't really work properly anymore. You need to go back and do the real design work in order to get the right things out there. So proof of concept should be things that can be thrown away, not things that should then become a production thing. They are to be thrown away.
Absolutely. No, completely agree with that. Next, hold an agentathon. So again, that link that I shared in the chat, that was our agentathon that we held last week within our own organization, the Inform team. You can find out more about it there. But again, it's just a way for people to start thinking about agents, thinking about what are the types of problems that we could address with them, and what are the types of things that we can start to build. And lastly, think about cultural readiness. So this is super important for your organization. Where are you in your Copilot journey? You don't want to start off necessarily with Copilot agents if you haven't explored Copilot at all. So it's just to think about what's the cultural readiness and where are you? And of course, if you need any assistance with that, we're always ready to help.
And I think the thing that I think agents change is a completely different way of working. It will actually fundamentally change the way that people interact with parts of your organization. I mean, if you do this in its entirety, you might not raise a ServiceNow ticket anymore. You might go to a different place to do a different thing, and it does it all for you through a series of prompts and some topics and things like that. So this is a very different thing, which needs it needs a lot of communication. That's the one thing I think that in getting started is not being afraid to communicate something. Communicating nothing is dangerous, and I think that everybody wants to know that leaders are thinking about it, doing about it, talking about it, failing at it, enjoying it, hating it, whatever it is, it's okay. And it normalizes all of those, normalizes it for your entire organization. And then defining your strategy, it is low code, no code, but only to a point. You really have to put some proper design work and effort into making these things useful. And I've heard a lot of people say, it's okay, I got started, I created a thing, and it's just like, but they, again, it needs proper thought. So, do you want to?
Yeah, so consider the high value use cases. Again, that may come out of the agentathon. Start to think about what are the opportunities, what's the low hanging fruit, again, to use another cliche phrase, but what are the opportunities for you to use Copilot agents? Build a center of excellence as well. Start to build that capability within your organizations to empower your colleagues to be able to build this stuff, and to build it with the correct guardrails and best practice, which is the next point. So just start to build that governance around it, because you may remember using a previous Microsoft example when SharePoint Online came out. It was amazing. Everyone learned how to do it very quickly, but suddenly there were thousands of SharePoints all over organizations, didn't get updated, made a lot of technical debt. So actually, if you start off with the correct guardrails and best practice, it just ensures that you will reuse agents and you'll only have a set amount that are actually useful for you.
It's interesting because actually the build a centre of excellence sounds very grand. It doesn't need to start grand. Centre of excellence could be 4 people that really know what they're doing and talking about and can interface well with the business to help drive that along. That doesn't need to be a huge capability to start with. It can start very small. And then the next thing is to build a roadmap. You know, everyone's saying, oh, we just got to get started. It's like, yeah, then you need a strategy, then you need a proper plan. And obviously, sorry, the last bit is, again, keep communicating some stuff. This is also not software development. Anything your technical and delivery digital teams used to know and understand, this is not software development. It requires a completely different way of thinking and a completely different way of delivering. And it's really important that the design of these things up front and how you build them out is very different. So this is that needs real upskilling with your digital teams on how to do this. It isn't blindly just figuring some stuff out. And then I guess interestingly, one of the things I've been talking about with Tom is about user experience. And what we're meaning by user experience here is actually, how would you anticipate your users interacting with your Copilot agents? Is it through an intranet? Is it through an agent of is there an agent of agents out there? The agent that, you know, decides where everybody needs to go. You know, where is the endpoint for all the agent stuff? Do you have a massive library of agents that people can find what they want? Because once you might have 2,000 agents out there doing a thing, how do people find them? So that user experience needs to be at the heart, because you need to build them into the right place from the beginning. Otherwise, you'll end up with scattergun agents all over the place, I think. And then, as Archie said earlier about starting simple, there's a phrase being coined, which most people have heard, MVP, as a minimal viable product. Minimal viable agent is really important. Start truly simple. Give it some knowledge. Give it a few starter prompts. That might be a great starting point, and then build on it as people give you feedback. If you build complexity from the start, you might end up building something you don't need, but also you're not the ones using it. So it's not until people start actually using it that they'll understand where it probably needs to go with those challenges. And again, I mentioned this is not software developed. Think design. You can't build agents over processes that are already a bit broken. You might need to streamline those processes and make sure they're fit for purpose before you then build agents on top of that. And then the behavior is really important. You know, how does it behave? How does it think? What's its tone of voice? All of that kind of stuff is things we've never had to consider in software development before. I mean, design and processes, yes, but certainly behavior is new. And obviously communicate some stuff. So another thing I think that isn't really new either in the digital world anymore is avoid launch and leave. You don't just put an agent out there and go, see you later, it's doing its thing, have a nice time, see you in another life. This is very much, you know, get the analytics out there and make sure that you're getting, it's got some human interactions part of it, especially if it's a conversational, it needs to land with a human somewhere. If they're not getting the answers, you can't leave it hanging, that didn't quite answer the questions. It's got to have some kind of mechanism for providing any immediate feedback as well. So they should be 2 things that should be built into almost every conversational agent. But you need to probably refine those. So Archie?
Absolutely, yes. So it's it's all about just making sure that you're celebrating the wins and you're rewarding the innovation. So what we mean by that is, again, as people are starting to build these apps, you're experimenting, you're trying them out, you're starting to recognize the real value of what they are and celebrating that across the organization and taking the lessons learned as well. Adjust your roadmap. So again, one of the great things about Microsoft, but also slightly frustrating, is they update stuff constantly. So that's amazing. But you do need to adjust your roadmap, because you can think, okay, these are the set features I've got for the next 12 months. But then Microsoft will come out with a whole host of new amazing features. So just be prepared to be flexible with your roadmap and your plans for adjusting your approach to agents as well, because I'm sure there's a lot of exciting stuff around the corner. And lastly, measure and learn constantly. So although we've got this at the end, I think this is true throughout. It's great to baseline where you are when you get started in terms of the measurable impact and all of those sort of things. But super important to do that throughout and just really see the growth across your organization in capability, in time saved, in efficiency, because that helps to tell you a really powerful story, and the power of Copilot agents to be able to do things for you as well.
Actually, interesting, Archie, you mentioned about the Microsoft roadmap. That is definitely impossible to keep up with. But actually, I think you'll also notice that your specific roadmap will also be swayed by what you learn along the way. You'll be thinking, here's our 9-month roadmap, and here's a bunch of great high value use cases that we want to go with. And then you'll build a few and you'll go, oh no, this one over here, that needs to come next. And it needs to be very much agile in nature in terms of being able to go, no, this is the right thing to do, and that's constant prioritization. So I think, oh yeah, and communicate. I'm glad I put that as a separate bullet point to load, to animate slowly, because I kept forgetting it every time. So just a bit of wrap up. Has anyone got any? I know we're pretty over time, aren't we? But has anybody got any questions or thoughts? Tom?
Oh yeah, it's interesting, that analogy with the SharePoint sites, where it's, you can sort of go off and build a thing, and it's the same with agents. If you've got proof of concept, you go, oh, I've got this really good idea for this thing, I'm going to build it, and I've released it, and you give that link to your colleagues and they can interact with it, and then someone else creates another one. Suddenly you've got kind of 3, 4, 5, 10, 50 agents that maybe have slightly different behaviors and respond slightly different to prompts. And how do I even find these? Do I save the links? And that's where that kind of the best practice and having that sense of excellence really genuinely comes in, because to have that, take a step back and think, right, what is the user experience? How are they going to interact with these things, and how do we make the experience consistent? And all that sort of thing is part of how to think about and plan your approach to agents.
Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword, because obviously we want you all to go and experiment with Copilot agents and to try them out, and by doing that you're going to create new agents themselves, and everyone has to have that experience. But at the same time, an organization can quickly become very saturated, we believe, with agents in a similar way to SharePoint sites. So yeah, it's once you've got that experimentation and you've got that knowledge on how to create agents, it's having that discipline to go back and examine what Copilot agents have already been made and maybe delete them or repurpose them, or whatever you need to do, recycle, to be able to make sure that you're not inundated with agents on your tenant as well. I think it's a super important thing to have as your governance.
Definitely. And I think probably one thing I think is a good takeaway for today is, I think that getting started is still the thing. And if you are totally new to agents, doing all of that stuff is necessary. But put some kind of guardrails around it, which is, how long are you going to build proof of concepts for before you've got some of the answers you need? How are you going to push forward with use cases, and who are you going to upskill? I think are the real key starting points to try and push forward. But I think I mean, hey, I'm probably a techie. I'm a techie at heart, so this is an exciting journey. I'm not sure everyone feels exactly the same way, maybe a bit trepidation, but I think it is exciting. I think it'd be game changing for a lot of organizations getting this stuff moving. So anything else to add, Archie?
I don't think
we
so.
Might be at the end here.
I think thank you for the session. Again, as Erica said, just go out, try it. We're still in the very early stages of this, so you guys are ahead of the curve in terms of coming to the session. So thank you again. If you do have any questions around agents, or you need any advice, you can always feel free to reach out to myself, or I'm sure Erica won't mind as well, and come to the Inform team, and we're very happy to support you.
Always love an agent chat.
Definitely. Yeah, we're as you can see, we've gone over time now, and Eric and I were joking when we were practicing for this. We could talk for hours about this. It's never enough time. So it's a miracle we only went over by 5 minutes, but really appreciate everyone joining.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for turning up. and asking so many questions.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Thanks, guys.